Alright, what's going on guys? Thanks for stopping by my channel. My name is John, and today I'm going to go over how I color nighttime footage. So this clip was recorded in Amsterdam, got a shot of a few people riding some bicycles, and I really like the light flares coming off the bike lights, and the overall look of the image, so that's what we're going to be working with today. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is make sure that you have your Lumetri Scales pulled up. Personally, I like to work with the Vector Scope YUV and the Waveform RGB. Those give you a nice graphical indication of the light. Sometimes computer monitors can be different in how they display color, so this gives you a true honest look at what the light's doing and if you're clipping anywhere or what your colors are doing. This gives you more of a graphical, scientific look at the light. So the first thing you're going to want to do is head over to your curves panel, and my first move is I like to adjust the Luma Curve. So when I adjust the Luma Curve for nighttime footage, normally I drop my shadows down to the 0 line just so some of them clip a little bit but not too much, otherwise you'll get big black blotches in your image and lose a lot of detail. Unless of course it's a very, very dark image, then some spots might naturally fall to black, and in order to get proper contrast you might need to actually crush some of the blacks. But in general, if you have a decent amount of light in the image like this one does, I tend to not totally crush the blacks. Okay, next we'll be adjusting the highlights. Again, be careful not to clip too much at the top, otherwise you'll get blotches in your image, but certain spots, especially in this image with the very bright bike lights, you're going to end up clipping a little bit. This is no big deal. Obviously, they're very bright lights, and that information probably wasn't really even recorded very well in camera. So you'll get a little bit of clipping in an image with bright lights in it, but it's nothing to worry about. So that looks pretty good right about there. Now what we'll do is head over to the hue versus saturation curve. What's going to happen with this one, since I recorded it in daylight, even though there was a lot of tungsten light, is that the tungsten light is going to go super yellow. I shot this with a daylight white balance, even though there was tungsten in the background, because I really liked that in the foreground that there was daylight. And I wanted to make sure that the people riding towards me skin tones were alright. So in a mixed lighting scenario, sometimes it's a little bit tough, but that's what makes color grading night footage fun, and a lot of times you can get a really unique look out of it. Okay, so as we bring this up, you can see that tungsten light getting super yellow. So what we're going to do over here is actually just pull down the saturation of the yellows. You're going to have to play with how much of the reds you grab in here too, but play around with it. So now that I have my yellows dropped a bit, I noticed that I really like that blue bike light coming towards me. So what I'm going to do is actually increase the saturation of the blues a little bit to try to make that pop some more. I'm really liking the way that looks right about there. It also makes the sign pop a little bit. I might pull down my yellows a little bit more now that I'm looking at it, but overall the image is looking pretty solid. Next what I'm going to do is jump into my creative tab and pull up the sharpness a bit. I like to add 5 points. And then I'll jump back in my curves tab to adjust hue versus hue. So what I'm going to do over here on the hue versus hue tab is I'm going to grab these yellows and actually bring them a little bit more towards red. Careful when you mess with this that you don't actually adjust the whole line, otherwise you'll shift the tone of the entire image. You just want to make sure your mouse doesn't move too much and you don't slide the line up or down. So once we pull those yellows more towards red, I think it kind of warms up the background a little bit, makes it not so harsh tungsten, and I actually really like the way that that tungsten light is looking now. It's got a nice warm red glow to it. Right about there is looking pretty good for me. You don't want to go too far with any of this. You can get some really wacky colors if you go too far on the hue versus hue tab. But if you're subtle with it, you can get some really amazing looks. I'm really liking the way that's looking now. And next what I'll do is I'd like to turn those blue bike lights actually a little bit more teal. I like my blues to be slightly more on the teal side. Yeah, I'll bring those up a little bit. You can see they're kind of turning slightly more green. Slightly more teal. It's looking pretty good right there, and I think I'm gonna call it like that. If you enjoyed this video, it would be awesome if you'd leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. If you have questions about your own footage, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Every clip's different, so this isn't a master key, but just a look at how I would grade a certain image. So like I said, feel free to leave any questions you have below, and I'll be getting back to you guys. Alright, thanks again for watching. Later.